Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. It's Kelly Betts, of course, and I just wanted to talk about the Cage show some, mostly for myself, so I can look back when I'm all old and remember more clearly, because my memory's not the best. So while it's fresh in my head, and before I exaggerate all my stories, even to myself, I'd like to give a clear telling of what happened. So it was at 2720 Cherokee. It was just last night. I drove to St. Louis to do it. 2720 Cherokee is fucking awesome. It's like I said to my friends that were there that it was like if we were in a bad kids movie from the 90s and you got shrunk down to go to a venue in a dumpster and there was like because like they have literal pieces of trash like spray painted and all on the walls and like in little art installations in the corners mixed with everywhere Star Wars action figures, which I really badly wanted to like grab and examine. And then like TIE fighter kits and X-wings, and it was just incredible. Just all sorts of just weird art pieces in there. I'll get to the beef of this, which is Cage's set. And seeing Cage definitely opened my eyes to the possibilities of what a rap set can do, which is having them be more like songs and strong concepts and being able to sing segments of them. And then also just content wise, art is at its best when it's nice and controversial and pushing the limits. And I think the main point of what it made me realize about him, I always saw Cage as a shock artist, and I'm okay. I like exploitation and shock. Cage talks about things that are taboo, drug use, rape, unhealthy mental states is his specialty, I think that it really these things are taboo, but it helps us reach very honest places when we get into these subjects, and it was really interesting. He said he was sober. He was completely sober, which would probably be interesting to hardcore fans of Cage because it's Cage, if you know anything about him. But I guess he had a cold, and so he wasn't getting drunk. But it seemed like he wasn't using a lot of drugs at this period. And right now, it doesn't seem like it seems like he's relatively sober, but alcohol's a hell of a drug still. So sounds like he's just getting drunk. So he only had one beer all night, up until when he left my site at about 1 a.m. But yeah, so anyway, I was saying, he asked the audience one way. He said, "I'm sober enough to drive." He's like, "Is anybody else sober?" And I raised my hand like straight edge nowadays, and about half the audience raised their hand and was sober. And then he said, "Is it?" And he said, "Who's sober because they're in recovery?" And then this guy in front of me raises his hand because I'm like right up front, but this guy right in front of me raises his hand, and he just starts talking with Cage just kind of relaying what the other guy is saying, and the other guy says he was on heroin. He says I was on heroin, and then I got off heroin and switched to pills. And Cage was like, I did the same thing. And Cage said he was on heroin for 5 years, and then he goes, and then I just quit. Like. But then later he said that he goes to meetings and everything. He was kind of making fun of meetings, even though he's going. But another thing he said before he played somebody in the audience, he was like, "Who wants to hear a song about this? Like, what do you want to hear a song about?" People kind of yelling out. And so this girl said, "What about stalking?" Trying to get him to play the song, "It's like the sky opened up and sent you directly to me," whatever that song's called. And he goes, "Who's been charged? Who's been served papers for stalking?" And like 3 people raised their hands, and then he's like relaying stories about stalking. He's being so unabashedly honest and putting so much up on the table that these people in the audience aren't afraid to say their darkest secrets to a room full of strangers themselves. And it really felt special. One problem with living your life like I do, which is to say doing a lot of concerts, performing at them, hosting them, and working them as a stagehand, and working shows in every regard, it becoming your life, you lose the magic. I remember being a teenager and it feeling special, and now the magic is gone. I hate to say, but anybody that's in my position knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you've been doing it for 12 years, I guess, like I have, yeah, there's no magic. When it gets to that special moment and the show comes to a climax, I'm like, this is what they do in every city, and that's it. This is the show. But I still go. Obviously, I still love it. So don't take this the wrong way. But this show felt special. And it was way beyond the nostalgia I have of being a longtime Cage fan. Him talking between the songs was one of the best parts of the show, because of moments like that, because of moments of deep sincerity and odd black comedy coming from the situation of him just being willing to say anything, to say what's on his mind. He kind of randomly told a story about when he was at 15, killing a cat. And at first I'm thinking, oh shit, he was crazy as a kid. He killed his cat. That's bad. I would expect that. But he didn't. It wasn't like that at all. He said he's like, when I was a kid, we had water beds. He falls asleep on a water bed. He woke up and he'd slept on his cat and he'd killed his cat. And so he talked about hiding the cat. He said he tried to revive it by giving it mouth to cat mouth, closing its nose and breathing. He tries to revive this cat for like minutes and then he can't. And I'm laughing this whole time because I'm a terrible person apparently. He's saying it in a very funny way, and he said that he was ashamed, and so at like 5 a.m. he put the cat, which now had rigor mortis, between his refrigerator and the wall with the tail sticking out so his mom could find it. And then like left a note like, I left to school early, and then he said that he admitted what had happened to his mom just 5 years ago, which is 20, that's like maybe 30 years later or something. I can't, 25 years later. And he said he also admitted it in the same conversation to burning their house down. He said 2 birds with 1 stone. So he didn't tell how he burnt his mom's house down, but apparently that happened too. The last thing I wanted to say that he said, I won't do it any justice, but he said that something was wrong with his throat because he'd smoked blunts with somebody after the last show he was at, and he was like, these fans smoking blunts with, giving me throat AIDS. And then he goes, is that still a thing? People even get AIDS anymore? Are we on to some new hip disease? He's like, oh, you got AIDS? Come on, get HPV. Get with it. And I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, black humor, great stuff. But Cage, amazing performance. He had a guitarist with him. He also rapped over beats. The set seemed to be not improvised, but he was taking requests. Like every 4 songs, he just asked for whatever song he wanted, and he seemed to be kind of picking and choosing songs as he went. A lot of talking, a lot of jokes. He was very lucid. When I do a performance, I kind of pace back and forth and run around. I jump up and down. And a big thing I learned from him that I hope I remember is that it's more about the intensity and choice of movement as opposed to constant intensity, because he was standing still for a lot of it, and then when he would make a movement, like kind of get down on his knees or like walk somewhere, kind of like grab at something in the air, he would do these things. It was, it brought your attention more to it. And I know that he's just started, he was in a film, an independent movie recently, and that's what he's trying to focus on. So all the luck to him. He does seem like a natural fit for being in movies. That seems perfect for him. My brief conversations with him, of course, I was hella nervous, but he just led the conversation into a very natural and lucid, but intense thing. I was immediately just telling him my honest opinion on him, which isn't entirely positive, and he recognized that. I'm not ashamed to say I called him a beautiful disaster, and basically said he could have been famous. And he goes, "Who wants to be famous? What's fame anyway?" He said he called himself a self-saboteur. He admitted that he could have been. We both agreed he could have been bigger than he is. So there you have it. That's my long-ass review of the Cage Kennylz show at 2720 Cherokee that I was honored to be a part of. If you were there, if you were one of like the 50 people there, that it was really, really special. Poured his heart out. It was amazing. I can't I can't say enough. I could go on for double this amount of time. There you have it. Thanks for watching. If you get a chance to see Cage, definitely do so. I think he's still on tour with Marilyn Manson and Smashing Pumpkins, and he's also doing solo stuff. Said he's done 120 shows this year. See him and listen to his music on this channel. You can find a Best of Cage mixtape if you're not familiar with his music, and I'm working on a part 2 right now. If you want to hear some music inspired by Cage, check out my Bandcamp, kellybetts.bandcamp.com, or just YouTube Kelly Betts and find some of my songs. I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks, guys. Go see Cage live. Cage, if you're watching this, awesome stuff, man. Keep it up. Good job with being relatively sober. We're proud of you. Take it easy.